What's up, guys? It's your boy Zawolki back out with another Chris Watts video. And yes, Zawolki is reacting to another Chris Watts video. And for those Zawolki haters, I'm sorry, but if you don't want to watch me, I completely understand. Go click the link in the description for the original uploader if you don't want to watch me. No one is forcing you to watch me. No one is making you do anything you don't want to do. But for those that are here and would like to watch with me and see what interesting things we can find out more about the case, if there is anything at all, we're going to watch together. So grab a chair, get comfortable. Also, don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel by hitting that wiper icon down at the bottom right. Hit that bell icon next to it. So when I do post videos like this one, you guys will get that little ring notification that I posted that video. And then you guys can watch, comment, like, and share. And again, thank you so very much for that love and support you guys show on my channel. I am truly blessed to have every single one of you. And I can't wait to see what the future holds. And the link in the description for Tori Hartman, her YouTube channel, is below. Again, not taking credit for her video or findings. The link is in the description for you to enjoy her by herself, or if you would like to watch with me, it's down in the comments, or not the comments, but the description below. Let's get into it. So this one is the Chris Watts, Cindy Watts Diabolical Need to Destroy Shanann Watts by Tori Hartman.
Hey everyone, and welcome. I am going to talk about Cindy Watts. So I promise.
Oh, she should be a terrible person because she's giving her 2 cents on Cindy Watts.
I would. There's 2 things I took notes. There's 2 things I want to mention that we're going to really.
Or she's talking about the case. How dare she? Do you realize that people still talk about wars and dead people from millions and thousands of years ago?
Hone in on today is the number one thing, ding, 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 the number one thing that people comment on is.
And I saw a Reddit post that wanted to sit there and say that I was obsessed with Shanann. No, I'm obsessed with NK getting caught. You Dumbo.
We forgive you. So in her courtroom speech to the victim impact statement, I should say, she forgave her son by saying, "We forgive you, son." The other thing I'm going to touch on today is the video. There's a video where she's being interviewed and she's crying and she says, "I don't know how to get through it." And she doesn't know how to get through it. Well, I'm going to give some suggestions on how to get through it today. Now, before I like this woman, I want to just remind everybody, it's fine if you don't agree. Totally fine. You can have a different opinion. I think what happens is this casual snarkiness or meanness. You know, somebody said, "I know you're probably going to block me because I'm saying," and I forgot what it was, but something about this is not intuitive. It's psychology. And I just thought, and so what I want to say to you is,
somebody sent me this and told me I needed to watch this because of what I posted on my YouTube post area. Well, it used to be discussion and now it used to be community tab and now it's posting. Yeah. So I posted there and they said, you need to watch this because this woman knows about haters. And I'm like, okay, let's do it.
Is that if you're really just wanting to hear yourself talk, then I suggest you share with a friend before you post, just because I think it's super important to listen to all the facts that are on the video. If you really don't like the video, give it a thumbs down and don't come back. I mean, I think that's the thing.
I love this woman.
It's like
I love her
years ago,
so much.
I'm going to tell a little story, then we're going to get into Cindy Watts. Years ago, Don Shula was the football coach of the Miami Dolphins, and they were going for their, the first time a team went undefeated. And during one of the Monday, I don't know if it was during that season, but it was either before or after or during, I don't know. Anyway, Don Shula in Monday Night Live. This was back when, Monday Night Football. That's when people like actually couldn't say anything on TV. Like the F word was like shocking. Now we can rip people apart. But the camera went on him and he was going, and people were like, oh my gosh, that's horrible. They should have blocked that out. And we didn't hear him. We just saw his mouth move. And Shula said it best. He said, well, you don't like it, don't watch football, change the channel. So take what you like, leave the rest. And just let's let people who want to be here and want to process some of this and kind of chill out together and get deeper into some of this and some of the healing that we need to talk about. So
I like this
something
woman.
really hit me in all of this. And I want to start with when she said, I'm going to talk about the real message of "We forgive you," because I think that's a really important thing to say. And I think that the first thing I want to say about forgiveness is we don't forgive others. We forgive ourselves for having judged them. So I'm going to back up here and I'm going to go to the answer and then go to the forgiveness comment that Cindy made. Let's begin with, she doesn't know how to get through it. And I'm thinking, I hope she wonders, if only I hadn't been mean to Shanann. I really hope she wonders that, because I think the biggest thing is that's the first thing to look at, Cindy, is, and I'm going to speak directly as if, in this moment, that's the first thing to look at. How many times were you mean to Shanann? I'm not talking about what Shanann did to you. It's kind of like kids in a playground going, but he did that. Well, how were you? You were the adult in the situation. So let's look at this. You didn't go to your son's wedding, Cindy. You constantly told your weak-minded son that his wife was evil. And the thing is that there's something here, is that truly a wonderful parent would say, I would get no joy out of being right. And the truth is, you got a lot of joy out of being right at the end, that you were right all along, but you kept pushing the envelope. And here's the thing I want to say about it. If you were right, then what difference would it make if you had supported their marriage, meaning your son and Shanann, because it would have fallen apart anyway, even without your help, if you were right. And I would ask these questions of myself. If I were in your position, Cindy, I would say,
this woman's smart.
Why did I have to be that right? Why did I have to be so right about Shanann? She was obviously loving to my grandchildren. What purpose would it serve to have that much hate? And why did I try to control everybody's life? Why was I doing that? See, if you really want to know how to get through something, you have to look in the mirror. If you're in that much pain and you really can't see it, I think what's getting all of us, as I have to say, as I'm doing this video, is that what gets us about Cindy Watts is that, do you really not know how to get through it? Because I'm going to tell you.
I'm going to look to see if she has anything on NK. I see that she's got stuff on Chris and stuff, but I want to see what she says about NK, because pretty much this woman is smarter than me. I think she's like literally taking everything I've thought and she's spitting it out. I just don't have a way of bringing it out, I guess. But this woman is so spot on with like how things have gone through this case, the Cindy Watts pointing fingers kind of thing. And then when I do that, so the haters will be like, Zawoki said this. That is not right. He doesn't do his research. I'm putting my 2 cents in. I didn't say that I'm a fully educated researcher. I've done my research for most of the stuff in the Chris Watts case. I, again, am not perfect nor a professional. And I just love how they keep coming after me. But the woman here is literally hitting the head, crossing the T's and dotting the I's of everything that I once wanted to say. This woman is fantastic. I suggest you go watch her stuff.
The idea of looking at your part and forgiveness, that's the key. All right, here's how you get through it, Cindy. You admit you were wrong. First thing on the Children's Playground Rules 101. I'm sorry. Man, those are magical words. Now, I know for some of us it's too late, whatever. But we're looking at, how do I get through it? You admit you're sorry. You apologize to Shanann's parents. You apologize and say, I was so wrong to be that mean. And you know what? You look like Leona Helmsley. I'm sorry, Queen of Mean. That's really the name you got because you couldn't admit that maybe you went too far. You just have to admit that you despise Shanann. That it wasn't like, well, she was wrong. No, you despised her. And you despised her because she was a step up for your son. He was reaching out of that situation he was in, whatever it was, he was trying to better his life, and you despised Shanann because she was saying some truths. He probably was dressed like a surfer dude. He probably was behaving inappropriately. Now, is that the right thing for her to do? No, we're not talking about that right now. We're talking about how you can't you turn to her and say, hey, you know, that kind of hurts my feelings. No, instead, you continued to create this bad stuff about Shanann. So let's go on a little about that. Admit you were wrong. Admit you despise Shanann. You admit that you tried to make her angry just to prove your point about her. And we're going to talk about the nuts. Who's the nut, right? Okay. So when we talk about the nuts, and I know like the thing I want to say about that is, you know, tree nuts, peanuts, whatever it was, you were baiting her with the nut incident. And then you had the nerve to go ahead and tell Mark Jameson, Chris's best friend for 25 years, that it was something over chocolate. So you weren't even telling the truth about the circumstance of the upset. So what do we know? We also know, as people outside of this, Cindy, if you're not telling the truth to Mark, it's because like a little kid, you were ashamed of your behavior and you had no way of validating it because it was inappropriate. So let's get back to how you're going to get through it. You're going to apologize. You're going to admit that you were a spiteful person and you know that you behaved badly, and you're going to first pray for forgiveness. You know, that's the thing, is that there are times I've done things that I've been very ashamed of in my life. And you know, when I say ashamed, I behave badly. I've been a bully, okay? And I had to back up and go, wow, that person didn't deserve that from me. All right, Owen. That person didn't deserve it. And the thing about this is that you really want to get that it really is, to get through something, we have to let go of trying to save our ass and our face at the same time.
Oh,
Thank you, Gavin. Everybody loves your toy. Thank you. Thank you for that. And we have to give up that idea that you're going to look good, that you're going to look right. Because the truth is that you already look what you're going to look like to everybody else. We all do. And so at the end of the day, sorry, Gav, I'll play with you in a minute. At the end of the day, you know, admit that you did something inappropriate. And, you know, I think that you need to apologize to Shanann's family, okay? You also need to apologize to your husband for denying him of that final birthday party. Because you know what? Everyone looking kind of knows it was a big team.
Well, I think he wanted to go to the wedding too, but
team effort. And why wasn't Chris's sister at the arraignment or whatever that was, the plea deal, right? The other thing, and I'm going to get to that in a second, you stop living the lie that you're the victim in this. And I really want to say that I'm not saying you weren't. I'm not saying you didn't lose grandchildren. I'm not saying that you didn't have a loss. But I think the loss that you had was the victimization by your own hands. I think that you denied yourself a relationship with this woman who was actually capable of loving your son. And she was capable of having that relationship while you and your son weren't. So I think that what we need to look at here is those kinds of things. The other thing I want to say is that, you know, there's another piece here that I think is really scary, is that I think you secretly got a charge out of your cruelty. You ever see the movie Mean Girls? They liked it. And you know what?
Exactly what NK did with Chris. She loved it. There's an actual word for it, and we've talked about it not too long ago, that Nicole Kessinger enjoyed destroying the relationship, the marriage. She's done it before. I mean, she went after a married guy, did a little, you know, and then thought it was okay to stab somebody in the back. That's the first time. Second time, Chris Watts. Is there going to be a third time? Gosh, I hope not.
I have to admit that you liked sticking it to Shanann. You did. Because every time you brought her down a notch, you proved that she was no better than you. She was no better than anybody else. And why? You know, isn't that something that in so much of life we all live with? He sees a squirrel. In so much of life that we all live with.
I like her.
It really is that we put these things out there like, oh, that person thinks they're better than me, or that situation is, you know, they're trying to be better. It's like, so what if someone's trying to better their life? Why would you try to tear them down? And even, I've got to be honest with all of you, even on this video, there's going to be somebody.
And there's people that enjoy getting off on destroying other people's lives. It's ridiculous.
Who comes along who has to tear it down. Why? You know why? Because they don't like that other people
Are
like
happy.
it. They want to come, and I had somebody once say, you know, there's a lot of people in life that just want to piss in your Cheerios. And it's like, why? You know what? Create your own happiness. And you know, it's really sad that this situation where she's going, what do I do? Well, Cindy, here's what you do.
Oh.
You admit that Shanann was driven. She was a go-getter. She was going to make something happen. You know, in the letter that Shanann's friend wrote after after everything happened, everything was said and done, there was a friend that Shanann had met up with in North Carolina, and when
Oh,
they were
yeah.
there, and she told this friend the details. Now, of course, it's not admissible in court because it's, you know, hearsay. But hey, what we're doing, it isn't. So here's the thing. And again, I want to just reiterate: this is my opinion. Okay, so that nobody can be like, she's saying this is fact. But here's the thing: I did read that letter, and the letter.
And that's why the haters in mine, they don't watch the whole video. I've said alleged, not fact. And they're like, Zawoki said this was fact. He said it was the truth. No.
Basically, the woman said, Shanann even said she texted and called Ronnie and Cindy and said, where
Greyhound?
are you for Cece's birthday party? So I'm saying this because Shanann said, you know, she's at it again and it was really difficult, but I'm really trying to reach out to this woman because it was, you know, it is my daughter's birthdays and I want to include them. Shanann made a point that she wasn't going to expose them to Cindy and the family, but she also made the point that this was really important to her. And you know what? She got no reply. They just cut them off on Facebook. They
Blocked
just
them.
ignored them. And I have to say, if I were Cindy, how are you going to get through it? I tell you what I've learned is that when I'm cruel to somebody else, to immediately drop to my knees and just say, okay, I really didn't behave well. And just, I pray on it. And then I just say, okay, how do I need to correct this? And the way to make something right is to admit I was wrong, to admit my part in it. And, you know, whether or not, and I know some of people say, well, she can't, she's this. And, you know, there's going to be people on the thread who use psychobabble of like narcissism and bipolar and all these terms that some of us, like myself, I'm a layman. I don't really know all the details of it. There are people who know what those terms mean. They're brilliant. They've gone to school for it. All I know is mean is mean. And you know what? She was mean. And when I've been that mean, and I'll never forget having to say to somebody, you know, because I had yelled at somebody and I hung up on them and I called a friend of mine and said, I'm so proud of myself. I just said this. And I have good friends. And my friend said, you know, the content of what you had to say was right, but the way you did it was mean. And I went, oh, man. So I called the person back. And I said, listen, I'm really sorry for the way I spoke to you. The tone that I spoke to you, it wasn't right.
Wow.
And I said, I just need to clarify that I meant what I said, but I wasn't nice about it. And I apologize for that. And he said to me, thank you, because it was hard to hear. And so if you really want to be heard, man, it's the old thing that all of our grandparents said, didn't they? Well, you get more flies with honey. You know, so the thing is, and the other thing is, we feel better, don't we, when we kind of, as they say, man up or woman up and kind of go, you know, I was kind of childish. Oops, sorry. And you know, I think that we need to start with the idea of we're not right when we're mean. We're not in our right mind. You know, it's like funny, those Snickers commercials, you know, you're not right when you haven't had something to eat. It's like, yeah, you're not right when we're mean to each other. We're just not in the, you know, why come up, and I'm just going to use this.
I can honestly see why this person sent me this video. It fits perfectly with what was said on a different channel and so forth. And I'm not going to get into it because it doesn't bother me. I'm looking at a different aspect of light. People were judging my faith, saying that I'm lying about being or wanting to be a man of God and to go in the right footsteps. And I thank that person for sending me this video, because this Tori Hartman, she's like hitting everything that I've felt in the past 24 to 48 hours. Very well said, Tori.
As an example, why come up and say, you're just using psychology, it has nothing to do with intuition? What purpose did that serve? Like, what did you get out of making that comment? Like somebody said, how do you know this? And I was like, there's only two ways to take that statement. Either you're trying to belittle me, or
it's like interpreting text messages. Some people might think it's rude. Some people might think it's funny. It's all with interpretation. And some people interpretate my channel in a negative way, saying I'm copying videos or I'm taking it and saying it's my own when I don't. You guys can see everything that I've documented and sourced out to say, hey, this is not mine. This is theirs. Watch it on mine if you want to. But if you don't want to watch with my face or my voice, because apparently it's annoying, go and watch her. The link is in the description. Where did I ever say that this is my video? That's my, that I created. It just, and I love how this woman is saying it. Mean is mean. You catch more flies with honey. It just, she's very well spoken. She seems like a public speaker. But let's continue.
Or you're trying to say, how do I learn what you learn? Or you're saying something else that I'm not getting. Can you clarify that? And you see, the problem is we don't call each other enough on what we're really trying to say. We kind of snap immediately back. And believe me, hello, been there, done that. I've done that, okay? And I'm not perfect. I'm not going to be perfect. I'm not some big professional scholar that's kind of going to be like, oh, I guess those people hate me. Like, I was just on a live feed of somebody else's and I really liked it. And someone insulted me on the live feed. And I thought, what did the purpose serve except to try to make me feel bad?
Yeah.
You know, and I think that's so mean. And so when we talk about Cindy's mom, I know it seemed like somebody's going to comment, you know, when we talk about Cindy, excuse me, I meant Chris's mom. When we talk about Cindy, what purpose did it serve? You know, even Mark Jameson, who is, I keep thinking Travis Alexander right now, who was Chris's best friend for over 25 years. Even he said, well, you know, I never saw anything bad about Shanann, but his family seemed to always think she was shady and said she was shady. So I just
that's in the interview
after a while, and I didn't trust her. So, you know, the thing is that you won, Cindy.
Cindy made Mark, Chris's friend, hate Shanann, and Shanann really didn't, or Mark was really never around Shanann, but he hated her too because of Cindy. That's messed up.
You got her out of his life. How's it feel now? You know, she's going to have to carry that. You know, that kind of feeling. I don't know if I would ever really move on from it, if I'm being honest with you. I couldn't. That idea that I behaved so poorly, I might have contributed to something. And I'm going to tell you, I have a couple other things. This boy, Chris, was not strong enough. We know that. One of the things that I want to say, again, just my own kind of hit on this, is that I really believe, and I want to do some research on Cindy's family a little bit more, but I really believe that she was blamed for things in her life. And so it was very painful to be called out. And as a result, she shifted that onto other people. My sense is that there was always an enemy with Cindy Watts. My sense is that it was always her and the family against somebody. Have you ever seen that in some families? I know that some families always have a feud going.
We had a next door neighbor that we always despised, and we just, and they despised us, and we're like, why? Because it was a contest. It was always who had the better stuff and who had the better, like, now with me being 37 and kind of the same age that they were at that time, I look at it like, what? Why? I don't see that. You're not supposed to be jealous of another person or their stuff or their spouse or their resident. Like, we're not supposed to do that, and it seemed like that's what was going on here.
There's somebody they don't like.
Cindy didn't like that Shanann had all this great stuff and was taking Chris away, and
like, you know, Uncle so-and-so's the outcast. I think that Cindy really had such pain around the idea of being blamed. She really wanted to show how extraordinary and insightful she was. And okay, I'd love to hear your thoughts on that as well. Okay, this is the thing too, and I really wanted to take notes so that I kind of stay a little bit on track today. You know, I wrote down Cindy Watts represents that part inside of all of us that has to grow and change. And that part of us that's so fearful of things not being in our control, we have to destroy anyone or anything that is not as we want it. And I think that that's why Cindy is so outrageous to all of us. The idea of
or other really, channels,
you know, needing that kind of desperation of trying to be right. And as I said, that part of us that needs to grow and change. I don't honestly think that anyone who watched her or heard her say, "We forgive you, son," didn't kind of go, what? This is a victim impact statement. Now, that's one thing. When I see people who are Christian and some stranger or someone else, the wife's husband murdered her, and they say, we forgive you, but he's just a son, he's a son-in-law, not blood. To turn around and do that is really, I want to agree with everyone, it's the final insult to Shanann after death. And, there is something to be said about respecting people that are gone. It's not to say that we shouldn't look at the situations. It's to say, Shanann suffered. So did your grandchildren at the hands of your son.
Exactly.
It's a victim impact statement. It's not in your place to forgive him. It's your place to say, this has impacted me in this way, and I am so sorry.
She should have said that forgiveness at the police station or the prison that she went to go visit him. She shouldn't have used that time for victim impact statement for her. I agree with this woman 100%, 1000%.
It was your chance to own up to your crap and own up to everything I've been saying, but you didn't. Instead, you slapped one more time at Shanann. One more time you had to insult her, even in death. That's not cool. And I think, Cindy, if I had to say, what you need to look at is all of this.
And the birth of Shanann haters and the birth of anybody that's against them on YouTube, Facebook, Reddit, Instagram, whatever have you, those haters were born.
Somebody's gonna say, oh, how are you to look at it? Well, I'm the one who's here and the camera's on me, so that's who I am, okay? So here's a couple things I want to say about this. A lot of people say, well, the story's over, he's in prison, close the book. If we close the book here, we will never grow. We will never have an opportunity to grow past where we are now. Somebody commented, and I think this is very important as well. Somebody commented, after you saw your father, hit your mother, or he was about to hit my mom, you also said in another video how great your dad was. How can you say that? And the way I said it is my father grew. He changed. He grew. He admitted that he made mistakes. He went to therapy. He sent me to therapy as a teenager. He went to Al-Anon. I was sent off to Al-Anon. We were Alateen at the time. We did the work to move past the pain and the bad behavior. And at a certain point, my father and I were both in self-help meetings together. I can't tell you how many times we did tree hugging seminars. We were both crying, standing near each other. And I was like, this is odd. But, when someone sincerely is working on themselves, that's the difference here. So the truth of it is I know for me, I was appalled that she forgave him when that wasn't true. That wasn't true at all. She doesn't understand how mean she is and how much, and I've said this before, she's trying to save her face. Let me tell you something. It's a cliche. We can't save our ass and our face at the same time. Well, guess what? Your ass is hanging out there because we're looking at the foolish face of someone who behaved badly. And that's why she's such an icon now of a mother-in-law that's disliked. And yet, at the same time, she could turn her life around. I don't want to give up on anybody. Chris already made his bed. That's it. He's a monster. That's it. But anyone can grow and change, and I think we do have to let God and that person deal with their relationship in that.
Agreed.
Way. Now, all it takes is a sincere desire to make a shift. That's the beginning. And you know what? The truth is, no one wants to hear Cindy Watts hate. It makes our stomach turn. All she had to do if she wasn't going to say anything was just smile and just say, she could have gotten up and say, I miss my grandchildren. I'm sorry for this tragedy. Thank you for letting me speak. I don't really have any words right now. I just miss my son and I don't know what to do about it. Man, all of us would have gone, okay, leave the woman in her, but she had to go on.
Leave her alone.
They say, there was a saying that JFK became a leader when he admitted his mistake over the Bay of Pigs. And I think that we have to remember that we grow up when we admit our flaws, when we go, that wasn't the best way for me to behave. And my amends is that I'm going to change that behavior. I can't tell you how many times I've had to do that in my life. When you're a Sagittarian, mouth and, I want to say bad mouth disease. But so there's another thing I want to say about this is that, I know I've said this before, and you guys know I'm always saying, say what you mean what you say, but don't say it mean. But there's another piece, which is if you own your stuff, I don't have to shame you for it. In other words, if Cindy Watts got up, think about this, and said, I behaved really poorly to Shanann, and for that, I'm sorry. She was the mother of my grandchildren, and I was out of line. I was way out of line. And here I am standing here with a son who I love, who I'll always love. And I don't have words to express the impact this is not only having on myself, but I know it must be having on Shanann's family. And I really sincerely hope we can bring this together for healing. What an
Wow.
energetic difference is that? See, and I think, you know, the truth is, I just don't think Cindy Watts has the skill set. It's not that I think she's, and
Or
by the
doesn't
way,
want
everyone,
to.
I really want to say, I don't think she's evil. I think she just doesn't have the skill set. Now, I know there'll be people say she's evil, blah, 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 and that's okay. I think that, you know, I would like to look at how I can change my behavior and what the ways for her to change her behavior would be, rather than just say everybody was wrong. You know, I want to get to a place where we can learn new behaviors that maybe are outside of our current frame of reference. You know, what I'd like to hear from you, if there's some thoughts that have come up for you today so far in this video that perhaps you hadn't thought of, or perhaps are helping you think about your own life.
Oh,
You know,
yeah.
what is it that,
Like literally the things that she's saying right now, I'm like, what can I do to better my life with my spouse, my children, and stuff like that? How can I make things better? Which,
by watching Cindy Watts, we can do better. What can we do better in the future? How many of you can behave better to your son-in-law, daughter-in-law, people in your life? How many of you can say, you know what, I was wrong in this, and I want to call you right now and make that amends to you? I was really out of line. You know, being able to say that to people is one of the greatest gifts of, I want to say, higher consciousness we have. You know, really being here and being a kind to people, because you know, you don't know what that snickety, persickety, meanie comment is going to do to somebody.
yeah.
You know, we can.
I've had friends of mine from comments on, or not comments, but text messages, and the way that they read it, they self-deleted themselves. And it's really been hard over the years to get over that. But like she said, you don't know what's going on in people's lives? And for haters to come in here and just go off on myself or other YouTubers and stuff like that, what do you know about their life? Why go constantly into the negative and be nasty towards one another when things could be on a brighter side and we can make amends and just be overall better people? That's why the world is collapsing. That's why the world is the way it is nowadays, is because no one is willing to give another person a chance to listen, to talk, to, it's either their way or the highway. And when you don't believe what they say, they turn it around to make you look like the bad person. And that's the case in the Watts case with certain aspects. But it just doesn't stop there. The buck doesn't stop there. It continues on through different social media platforms. How you talk to your spouse, how you talk to your kids, your next door neighbor, the person at the grocery store. It's like, learn to start figuring out to reword how you talk if you disagree, or shut up. It's pretty much that fact. And I'd love to know if you guys agree or disagree.
Look at children who are killing themselves because of bullying. Don't you think we owe the responsibility to each other to not be mean?
Yep.
Really, to kind of say, wait a second, that's not acceptable behavior, dear, and here's why. Because children kill themselves over those kinds of comments. Do you really want to be part of the problem, or do you want to live in the solution? And I think when we look at the Cindy Watts situation, this is what we're talking about. What can we do to elevate the consciousness? And I really feel, and I've got to tell you, in my heart of hearts, I feel that, you know, Shanann probably was a really good person. And I'm getting truth bumps as I say this to you. And I want to say that I know we've all been mean to somebody, you know,
Yep.
we've got that mean streak. I know perhaps somebody I know personally. And I've had, listen, and I'm going to tell you, when you're a big mouth like me, when you are a Sagittarian, when you go, blah, you have to learn how to say, ooh, I went too far. You know, I was telling a friend of mine recently who doesn't like to wear makeup. I said to her, you know, in order to do this, you're really going to have to put on makeup. And I realized a couple days later, I was like, that wasn't very nice. And I just sent her a note and say, you know, I was kind of out of line and I'm sorry, because it's your choice to live as you choose. And I apologize. I overstepped. And she wrote back and she said, oh my gosh, I know you by now. So, if our intention behind it is really a kind one, then people are going to kind of forgive us. But I think we have to really, when we look at Cindy, how do you cope with it? You recognize that your intention was mean. You were mean to Shanann, and we all see it. There's not hiding it. You're not going to say she was bad and it's going to make you look good. It doesn't work like that. If someone is bad, then let your son decide that. Who are you to decide what is right for him? And he was so unable to create his own personality that he resented Shanann for having one. And eventually, he killed her, and he killed his children. And he got to say, gosh, Mom was right all along. She is evil. Who are you, Chris, to say someone's evil and kill them?
Right.
Now that is not right. So I think I said to you, Cindy, you admit you're wrong. You admit you despised her. You apologize to Shanann's family. You admit that the story has to end with you shifting. See, we as a society have to change the way we are responding, not just look at her bad behavior, but go, hey, what's mine? And forgive me because I don't know the exact quote. If you do, please put it here. The biblical quote that says, let it begin with me. Let me be the one who changes things. And if you really are a Christian, then you would look at it that way. Now, I honestly, people have asked me, what's your belief in all this? I hold a space for everyone's religious beliefs. I hold a space for my relationship with God. I have a personal relationship with him. I also have a relationship that I don't really talk about much because I think it opens up a can of worms for people to, find an againstness or how to change one another. I want to support you in your beliefs and what's right for you. So to wrap up, I have a couple more things I want to say. I wrote down this note. I said, I wrote Crocs, crocodile tears, my dad would walk by and go, that's Crocs, that's a croc, meaning crocodile tear. And I don't think, Cindy Watts, I don't think it's crocodile tears. I think it's sincere panic that you have no idea how to own your crap. You have no idea to do what I shared in this video. And wherever you go, whether it's therapy or to a priest or a preacher or some kind of help, I really believe that you need it. And so if you want to know how to cope every day, go figure out how to change your behavior so you can be kinder to people in the future. A couple final things. Okay. The I forgive you, son. Woo, truth bomb on this one here. Okay. Let's talk about the real meaning of we forgive you, son. Okay. I mentioned at the top, we don't forgive others. We forgive ourselves for having judged them. So really what you're talking about is I have to forgive myself for having judged Shanann and been so cruel to her. I have to look at that. It's vital. I have to forgive myself for judging your choices, son. And I'm sorry. I am completely sorry for what I've done. This is, by the way, everybody, what's missing, because it's like one of these things is not like the other, right?
Yes,
this
exactly.
is what's missing in Cindy Watts, is the humanity of recognizing that she was behaving.
Or then people will go off on her or myself saying, oh, we're being so nasty to Cindy. And we're not looking at ourselves. I can tell you for right now that I am no saint. I am not the perfect specimen, as you will. I have my flaws. And for others to call them out when they need to look at their own selves is redundant. But when you say things and we call you out on it, own up to it. I've owned up to my mistakes. There is definitely times that I have been at fault and I have said my sorries. But when you think that I'm supposed to apologize for everything because you think that's wrong, that's on you.
Badly. Okay. So, the dancing conversation. I think there's a lot of dance conversation around this. What I mean by that is someone who wants to sound really smart and they come on and go, well, he's a covert narcissist. She's a psychopathic, blah, blah. He's a this, he's a that. You guys sound so smart, but can we just say it in plain English? The real conversation is this is bad behavior that needs to be looked at. And whatever label you want to put on it, somebody said this, when we look at everyone being a narcissist from 0 to 100, right? We all are in the different, we go back and forth. So if you're going to talk about narcissism, you're going to talk about all that, please be an expert in it. Just because I don't know, I can say he's a narcissist, I can say she's that, but I
Don't
can't
know.
say for sure. So the conversation here is about how can we be better? How can we create a wisdom in ourselves and in our own lives? And ultimately, I was teaching today a class I have ongoing.
Oh, she's a teacher.
And I said, the
Okay.
goal of this course is to find inner peace. And when I say inner peace, I don't mean, I mean like to really get that we're okay. That's the goal of this, that we're okay. And so if you have discomfort, whatever you need to do, church, therapy, Bible, whatever it is, cards, whatever it takes for you, you define it. Not me, not anybody else. So the thing that really came forward to me is that I was thinking about Chris Watts sitting there and just not looking at her. And I can only imagine that if I were sitting there, I would be enraged. I would be in so much rage. And I would think, and I know what my dad would say to me if I had been in that position. My dad would not say, I forgive you. I know that my father would turn to me and say, I love you. And I am so sickened by this. And I am so sorry that you have created this circumstance and have no idea, really, I believe, no idea the ramifications of what you've done. And it's horrific. And I love you. Because what Chris Watts wanted to hear was, I love you. And I think Chris has been begging for that from his mother for a long time.
Validation.
She doesn't know how to love. So what do you think happens to her son?
He Googled it.
And really comes down to not loving ourselves, right? Isn't that really the key to this?
If they said from the guru, the love guru, you can't love yourself if you don't love another. Or how is it? You can't love someone else if you don't love yourself. That's what it was.
So, okay. I want to mention a couple things that I know I was wrapping up, but there's a couple things on the list here that I kind of want to mention. Why did Cindy clash with Shanann? Why was that? And I
Jealousy.
think that if we look at the incredible fear.
Because she was the personal, the one woman in Chris's life growing up for 18 plus years, and she didn't want to let Chris go yet. And anybody that was in Chris's life as a female companion was the enemy.
Of her losing that.
Some parents don't want to lose their children. And losing their children is not death, it is marriage.
Control over a family member, her son, that she was going to destroy the enemy at all costs. And I want to go further into her, and I will do another video on this that goes a little bit deeper, but I really feel that she was destroying her perceived enemy, which was Shanann. And we can we can use the kind of thing of like, well, it was, her jealousy and all this. And yeah, I agree, that's in there. We all have to look at, there is something way deeper that's going on here. And I know that we can say covert narcissist or what have you, but what does that actually look like here? And what is it that we need to do to shift that? So I think that her son left her, and that was just flew off the Richter scale for her. And the thing to remember about Cindy is she had a world to herself. This was her world. She had her son in the basement, her daughter nearby, her husband right there.
And when
so
he left,
was just doing.
She couldn't handle it.
Everything that she needed to just be in her world. She controlled everything in her world. And there were a lot of things that I believe Cindy Watts was afraid of looking at. And I think it's true for a lot of us. One of the things I find is that, especially when I've worked with people, I think that the biggest fear, and I know this is true for me when I've been in therapy years ago, it's like the biggest fear is finding out we're a piece of crap. And, somebody said that to me recently. They go, what if I'm a piece of crap? And I go, well, what if you are? People say that. And I go, well, I'm not a therapist, so I can say, but what if you are? And they were like, well, that's not helping. And I'm like, well, what if you?
I could say I was back in my 20s. I feel like I was a lot more of a piece of crap back then. I have my moments. I'm learning. I am trying to be better. And I feel that others that look down on you should look at themselves in the mirror.
You are. What if you really did contribute, Cindy, to this? What if? The question then becomes, when we go back to what you said, how am I going to get through this? You're going to drop to your knees and pray, and you're going to admit that you were out of line. You're going to start there. And you're going to admit your own sins to God that has nothing to do with me. And we're going to talk more about how we're behaving in the world and the way in which this can stop here and we can begin to shift it as a community. So I am so blessed, and I really do care about all of you. And
I do too.
If you don't vibe with me, go where you vibe, man.
I actually care about the haters. I hope that they find kindness and they find positivity and they find the big man upstairs. There are people that are going to say, I don't believe and I don't, and so forth like that. But you kind of need to. And what she's saying is fact.
And go get help wherever you need to get help. Find those moments in your life that matter. Find those people that you can talk to, because the truth is, we do need to be around people that aren't going to shame us and blame us. And I think we're in a society where it's really quick, and it is hard. You know, some woman commented, I think her name was Gail, and she commented, "You're about as psychic as my big toe." And I thought, what a mean thing to say. So it's kind of like, I wasn't saying anything to her, you know,
right?
Kind of like, but what happens when we put ourselves out there is there are going to be people that can't stand us for whatever reason. And I think that tonight, I hope that we have had this conversation around.
I want to have a live with this woman.
Maybe Miss Cindy, some things to think about. And I really want to just send you all some love and light, and I'll see you in the next video. And remember, be kind to each other and mean what you say. Say what you mean, but don't say it mean. Much love, everybody.
I like this woman. I wish I would have seen this a lot sooner. Definitely leave your comments below. I hope that more people can come together and be more positive. I don't have all the big words that this woman does. I'm human. I'm not a scholar. I'm not 100% smart. I'm probably, I put myself around like 70, 75 smart, maybe possibly 78 on a good day. I got B's in school. I did good on the SATs-ish. I did great in my ASVAT test for the military. I had a lot of jobs. I mean, but again, that doesn't say that your views are better than mine and my views are better than yours. I'm just putting the facts out there. Maybe sometimes I do get bad facts. I'm human again. Like, people think I'm supposed to be spot on every single time. And it's almost like thinking that a meteorologist is spot on every single time. It's a prediction. It's a guess. It's their opinion, their whatever have you. So try to look at the brighter side of people rather than the darkness or the negative in people, because you don't know what they're going through. So definitely very interesting on Cindy Watts and how she could change things to look on a better light of her. She could have went to the wedding, put her differences aside. She could have went to the birthday party, put her differences aside, put her grandchildren and her son before the issues that she had with Shanann that she pretty much made up herself, because she was taking away Chris from her. He's an adult now. You raised him through his years. Great. But it's now time for the what do they call that? The bird to leave the nest. I was going to say the puppy leave the kennel, but it's time. And she wasn't ready to let him go, and everybody was an enemy. So, again, put your thoughts, your opinions, and so forth down below. Keep them positive, as always. Make sure you guys go over to Tori Hartman. I definitely want to see if I can get on a live video and just talk about her and her. She would be good on book on tape, you know? Don't forget to subscribe, comment, like, and share. We'll see you guys in the next one. Keep nerding on. We'll see you guys next time.